collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, are Cypriots finally ready to vote for the island's reunification?
I strongly believe that there is a silent majority which is prepared in the correct atmosphere to go ahead.
The DISY chief is adamant that the president is not working for anything other than a bi-communal, bi-zonal federation.
He never spoke about loose confederation.
But Akel's leader says otherwise.
For me, it's very clear that in a certain period of time, he was thinking about a two-state solution.
The Council of Europe's anti-corruption team has been assessing our compliance.
The most important thing about fulfillment of, I would say, almost all recommendations is political will to fight corruption.
And this weekend, you're invited to run for seeds.
We also say organic farming. We say no pesticides and no fertilizers.
Earlier this week, there was a bicommunal panel discussion with party leaders from the Turkish Cypriot CTP and TDP and the Greek Cypriot parties DISY and Akel. And starting off the discussion in the buffer zone at Nicosia, on behalf of the Bicommunal Initiative United Cyprus, were Selma Eylem and Michalis Papapetrou. Selma, can you start by telling me what the initiative is aiming to do?
The aim is to support the peace process. We want to get the ideas of the parties and how can we support the process of peace and negotiations. This is our main aim for the United Federal Cyprus.
You'll forgive me, Michalis, but we know you as a politician, and they seem to keep changing their minds, on the Greek Cypriot side anyway. So what can you do about that? Because we're moving back from where we were at Crans-Montana, it seems, and nobody really knows what to believe anymore.
Well, over and above what has been said about the aim of this meeting, I think we have to stress through this meeting that after half a century, it's about time to come to a solution. It's about time to be bound by the concessions during the various rounds of negotiations in the past. It's about time to confirm finally that the frame we are asking for is bi-zonal, bi-communal federation, and at the same time to understand that time is running out.
But we've been saying time's running out for the last 50 years, and we just seem to go on and on.
But this is the first time that other sort of solutions, catastrophic solutions, such as two states or confederation, which will maintain tensions and hostilities as a permanent phenomenon, with a frontier line of Turkey within Cyprus, a long one, 180 kilometers, to be a source of confrontation, I think we have to think seriously. Things have the maturity date, and I think that in Cyprus problem we are already very, very late.
Selma, if I come back to you, how do you achieve what you're trying to do? Because it does seem that certainly in the south, I don't know quite so much about in the north, the population is fairly evenly split. If we look back to the referendum last time round, it was almost 50-50, give or take 5 or 10%. Has it changed? Can we do it?
I believe and I hope, because although the demographic structure of our society has changed by Turkey, and I believe that we will achieve to say yes in referendum, and I hope and I believe it.
But you said yes last time, and it of course has to be a yes on both sides.
Yes, I think so, because I understand that. I think that they understand now in the south that the solution is urgent, because there is a big threat in the Mediterranean because of the gas So in the 5 years' time, I think if there will be no solution now, there will be solution with Turkey in the north. So solution now is urgent for both society.
And Michalis, what do you make of the fact? Has opinion shifted even slightly in the south?
I think it shifted considerably. I strongly believe that there is a silent majority which is prepared in the correct atmosphere to go ahead. In 2004, we were almost 50-50 under very strange conditions. Akel, for instance, a traditional supporter of the solution, was in favor of no. And we had the then President of the Republic coming on TV, threatening the peasants by crying, telling them that they'll become a community and not a state. So all of this influenced the outcome. This is not the case now. And I really believe that if we go for a second time to a referendum, the outcome will be positive on both sides.
Assuming that it is, how do you make it sustainable? Because undoubtedly on both sides of the Green Line there are extremists who definitely do not want reunification.
That's why I believe that the forces of reunification, the bi-communal forces of cooperation in Cyprus, will not end or finish their job by the achievement of the solution. Our real job will start then, because we have to be the concrete on which the mutual trust and friendship has to be built. And I think that there are thousands of activists who are determined to undertake the job.
We can achieve it by our educational system, I think. We should organize the system to build the culture of peace, and with this to getting closer. We can achieve it with the educational system, to drop off all the chauvinist items in the system, so we can achieve it, I think.
Let's certainly hope so. We've been talking to Michalis Papapetrou and Selma Eylem from the Bicommunal Initiative, United Cyprus. The leader of the DISY party, Averof Neophytou, was one of the panellists at that discussion, and I managed to catch up with him, and he outlined his message.
If we want to find a solution, we have to be ready for a compromise, both communities. If the Turkish Cypriots consider that they can get the political equality, and at the same time the guarantees of the 60 will continue, as well as the remaining of the Turkish troops, the Greek Cypriot will never accept it. On the other hand, if the Greek Cypriots consider that we can solve the Cyprus issue without Turkish guarantees, with the withdrawal of the Turkish troops, and also by not accepting the political equality, it's a dream for us. But the Turkish Cypriot will never accept it.
We're not realistic, are we, about how we can...
I mean, we have to put in the same basket the security and the political equality. At the same time, the proposal of President Anastasiadis to allocate competences to the constituent states, this is a good idea that makes the solution more fashionable, because the daily lives will not be affected, because the decision will be taken at the level of the constituent state. And this is something that tackles the worries of both communities.
But what about the fact that President Anastasiadis seems to have taken steps backward from Crans-Montana and is talking now about two states or a loose confederation? We could well end up with the Green Line becoming the border with Turkey.
I never heard President Anastasiadis publicly, neither privately to me, talking about either confederation or a two-state solution.
But he has mentioned the fact that there should be a new view of it, and he's talked about confederation, a loose confederation. What does that mean?
He never spoke about loose confederation. His idea which I support as a party, is to have a federal system, bi-zonal, bi-communal federation, giving more competences, allocating more competences to the constituent state.
So he's still for a bi-communal, bi-zonal federal...
That's the political position, not only of the president, but of the majority of the National Council.
Averof Neofitou, the head of the DISY party, who was one of the panellists at that discussion. Then I managed to have a word with the leader of the Akel party, Andros Kyprianou, who told me what he was going to say.
Well, I will explain what is the current situation as far as the situation concerning the possibility of having negotiations is concerned. And from there on, I will suggest that both leaders should take into consideration their duty to lead the way for a breakthrough and finally a solution of the problem.
Now, I've just spoken to Averof Neofitou, who is adamant that there is no plan by the President for anything other than a bi-zonal, bi-communal federation. What do you say to that? Because that's not what we've been reading in the press.
I would not agree with that. I'm not sure which is the current phase in the mind of the President, but for me it's very clear that in a certain period of time, he was thinking about a two-state solution. Then I think he realized that this possibility would have been a very difficult option.
So has he stepped back from that idea now?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. I need to be convinced.
What will convince you?
Him taking initiatives in the direction of relaunching the negotiations. And so far he did not do so.
And if they are relaunched, what has to change so that we can get back on track?
The political will. If the political will exists, then we can be optimistic about the outcome. If not...
what's the answer?
Well, I think distraction will be the answer.
You don't sound very hopeful.
As things are now, I'm not very optimistic. I want to be sincere.
Andros Kyprianou, the leader of the Akel party.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
A perceived conflict of interest with regard to Supreme Court judges has been taking up countless column inches in the local press over the last several weeks. It's led to questions being asked about the integrity of our judiciary. So it was perhaps timely that a delegation from the group of states of the Council of Europe Against Corruption, known as GRECO, paid a visit to Cyprus last week to assess the island's compliance with and implementation of recommendations adopted last summer, 4 of which apply to the judiciary. After a press conference in Nicosia, I spoke to GRECO's president, Marin Murchala, and asked him to first explain what exactly GRECO does.
GRECO monitor the compliance with the Council of Europe standard in prevention of corruption. This is what our core issue is.
And how do you go about doing that? You've got a lot of members.
We have 49 members. One of the members is the United States of America, which gives additional flavor to our work. We choose the topic, then we issue the questionnaire, then the country reply to the questionnaire, then we go to the on-site visit. We go to each country for a week to have a conversation with and get the information from the interlocutors, and always included by NGOs and the media. Then we draft the report, which is discussed at the plenary meeting, and after the adoption of the report, we issue the recommendation to the countries. Then the country have 18 months to fulfill those recommendations, and after we receive report on fulfillment, we have a compliance procedure, and then gives another year to fully comply with all the recommendations, because so far no country fulfilled all the recommendations after the first report.
But you're in Cyprus because there are some recommendations that we have, I think, implemented, but there are quite a few we haven't. So what's the state here in Cyprus, particularly bearing in mind the coverage recently of possible conflict of interest in our judiciary and in particular Supreme Court judiciary, because that's very serious.
I heard about the allegation, of course, we are aware of that, and that these are very serious. The GRECO issued 16 recommendations to Cyprus in the course of the fourth evaluation round. 4 of them are for the judiciary. So none of them were fully implemented, but they were partially implemented. So it's not they are not implemented at all, but they are partially implemented. So what we came now here, the reason is because the compliance procedure coincide with these serious allegations. I have to say that we issued the recommendation which is directly linked to the allegations, to the situation of the allegations 4 years ago.
So it's potential conflict of interest for those who aren't familiar with it.
Exactly. Therefore, we issued a recommendation about the code of conduct with explanatory memorandum and with enforceable sanctions. If that was fulfilled before or in the course of the first 18 months, maybe this situation will not happen. That's why I think it's a proof that our recommendations are professional, are a valid one, are based on the factual situation and based on the standards.
But one of the things that people wonder is why, if some countries can implement things, others can't or don't. Now, I know there are cultural differences, there are probably legal differences, but isn't it helpful for countries who are having problems with implementation to see how other countries have done it?
Of course, it is very helpful. That's why we produce many reports in many areas. And there is, of course, a huge comparative basis to see how the things could be done. And of course, it's not easy always to fulfill the recommendations. I have to say, at least in my opinion, some countries are reluctant more, some are not. Because the recommendations are basically not because of the government, not because of the judiciary, not because of the legislative power, it's because of the citizens, to improve everyday citizens' life. So the Cyprus does not fall in the category of reluctant countries. But it's not always easy, because the fulfillment of some recommendation needs not only to change the law, change the practice, change the conscience of the people, but also to change the constitution. And of course,
that takes time.
That takes time. But the most important thing about fulfillment of, I would say, almost all recommendation is political will to fight corruption.
And that comes surely from citizens' will to demand an end to corruption and to demand transparency. That's what it's all about,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Transparency is a key word for that. If more transparency, less possibility for even to see the possibility of corruption.
Does it ever happen? Everybody's got corruption to some degree. How far has GRECO, since its inception, been able to, first of all, make the whole transparency issue more transparent, keep it on the table and on the front burner, with citizens becoming aware that they have a responsibility too?
Exactly, because everyone has their obligations and their rights, and all our reports are public. As soon as they become public, and this is with the agreement of the government, with the authorities, they are open to all the public. Now we will have a new web agent that will allow everyone to go much further, much faster into every of our reports, and that's what we are, of course, striving for.
That is Marin Marcela, who is the president of GRECO, who was in Cyprus last week.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
On Sunday, you're being given the chance to be part of change while running free on our mountainous winter trails. It's not just about running and healthy living, it's actually called a Run for Seeds, and it's being organised by Cyprus Seed Savers and Petrera Permaculture Land. And from the organisers, Sofia Matsi joins us to explain. Now, this is, I think, not the first time you've done this, so how did it come into being at the beginning?
We're very excited for this race, mainly because it represents our values and it also brings us together to enjoy outdoors and do sports all together. As Cyprus Seed Savers, every year we do annual events where we share free heirloom seeds to people, vegetables, traditional varieties of tomatoes, peppers, greens. And so we fused our passions for outdoors with sharing seeds, and we put this race together for the first time last year. And we were surprised by the response of people. Athletes showed up, daring ones to run the 21 kilometers, but also people who are not runners and they wanted to hike the 7 kilometers. And it was impressive. We had about 150 people show up with 2 weeks' notice. Everybody embraced our event, and we were pleasantly surprised to see how people wanted to be part of this movement for saving our traditional seed varieties, but also of a natural lifestyle.
All right, let's talk first then about the seeds, because most countries have seed banks. Does Cyprus?
Well, a part of maintaining our seed bank is done by the Agriculture Research Institute. But what we noticed as a tendency in other European countries is that a lot of the work is done by hobby gardeners, which means you, me, and the everyday gardener who plants in the backyards or in their farms. And that's what we're doing as a group. We are saving seeds, we're multiplying them, and we're sharing them with more people, trying to keep some varieties that probably the Agricultural Research Institute doesn't have, and even find more just by exchanging with other friends.
Do you cooperate with the government department and the Research Institute so that they come to you perhaps and say, listen, we need more seeds in our bank of this variety? People tend to not, in these sort of globalised days, realise that the Cyprus tomato, back when I came here, I can remember all Europeans who came here and tasted a Cyprus salad saying, oh wow, tomatoes don't taste like this in the UK or in Northern Europe. Different variety of tomato perhaps, also different soil, but a lot of things make a difference to the end product, don't they?
It does. It's all linked together. To get it from the beginning, yes, we do collaborate with the Agricultural Research Institute. We even had a joint event a few months ago because we're also active on the legislation of seed saving. But as for taste, we see that the tendency now is about quality in food. And quality is not really represented in the conventional mass production farming. The one that wants food to be stacked for days, the one that wants uniformity. We actually want something more beyond that. And it all connects together. When we say heirloom seeds, we also say organic farming. We say no pesticides and no fertilizers. We respect nature and we also respect our bodies because we want to give quality food, no chemicals. And so it all goes together. And it's inevitable to have good food with good flavor and also quality nutrition as an outcome.
Do you find that this is becoming very much more important to people these days, particularly since we've had all this global attention based on plastics and particularly microplastics entering our food chain and being found already in human blood samples and human feces? That's scary.
It is scary. It is scary. The fact that we find in about 70% of people living in towns, we find glyphosate, which is a common known pesticide.
And a cancer-causing one.
Yes. So how is that found? We're not living in farming areas. How is that found? Well, it's the water table. Everything is connected. The food we eat, the water that we use and we drink. We see more and more people every time wanting to move away from chemical and lifestyle. And that's the point of our race. Our race is not only getting out and running up on the trails of Kalochorio, Mitsero. It's beyond that. We celebrate life and we celebrate a natural lifestyle that goes with that. We support it and we promote it through our event. So we're going to have local producers come and present their products. People can taste some of these products that we talk about. We give out seeds as a medal instead of more plastic. So we try to, as much as we can, transmit the spirit of a more natural lifestyle to people, and people correspond very positively.
So you've got the 21k run and a 7k walk.
Walk or run.
Okay. I hope the weather clears up because it's been a bit iffy the last few days, hasn't it? But I suppose nonetheless people will get fantastic views from the areas you've chosen, and that's another thing I think maybe, that if we don't appreciate our surroundings, it's very easy to ignore the other aspects of our life, like good food, good flavours and healthy living.
This morning I've been listening to a podcast by one of my favorite yoga instructors, Travis Elliott. He was saying that number one step to living an ultimate life is slowing down. And that's exactly what we're missing through our lifestyles, through our very, very busy lifestyles. Whatever the weather is, I know that our support group will be there and they will run. Rhine or Shine, we're always out, because it's not about having the perfect day to go out. It's about, now it's an opportunity to smell the rain, to walk in the rain, to run in the rain, to run besides the filled river, which is extraordinary. All the riverbeds up on our villages now are filled, and we have a dam that fantastic view of the water. People cross next to it. It's a beautiful landscape that we have a chance to just slow down and enjoy.
Right, now then, the whole event is, as you said, organised around other things as well, an eco-festival, and will you have farmers from the area selling organic produce there? What else is going to be going on there?
We will have food that a group of friends will make fresh there. We will have producers of cosmetics, natural cosmetics, soaps and creams and basics, everyday basics that we need. Producers, organic producers that are going to come, they will bring their fresh produce, they will bring their preserved, pickled jams, everything they do in this store. And the nice thing about it is that you get to chat with the producer and ask questions and learn more about the products, taste the products, ask whatever you want, because that's important. Most of the times we have to deal with a label that many times do not understand the chemicals that are written on it. We want more honesty, more transparency on the products and more quality. And then having the chance to talk to the producer about them, that makes a big difference.
A lot of people, of course, in Cyprus live in the towns, in blocks of flats with maybe only a balcony, but they can still grow their own produce, can't they? They can get grow bags or window boxes and grow their own herbs, their tomatoes. Maybe not as much as in a garden, but it can be done, can't it? Do people do that here yet? It's very common in a lot of other places.
I know, because it's gardening is very much appreciated. Even here, people with lands, big plots of lands, don't really cultivate them. But it's changing, because now many people who are creating their houses, they're asking me, well, I want to do a small corner of vegetable garden. How can you help me out with that? And I'm always excited to hear that question.
And what do you tell them?
Of course, there's no limitation. On your wall, you can do a small vegetable garden to put in your basic herbs, to put in your pasta, and salad greens that you can grow in a very, very small space. We always promote the structure in permaculture. We call them wicking beds. And they are self-irrigated beds. They use the minimum amount of water, and they give you the maximum outcome for the space. That's for a dry land. We need more solutions like that. And people who are going to be visiting, they can see also structures like that, because Petrera, which is the host land, is a land developed based on permaculture principles, and we're still developing it. But so people can just walk around, explore, ask us what they want about what is this? Is this a bug hotel? Is this a compost toilet? And we can talk about everything that we have up there too.
Bug hotel.
Yes.
Tell me more.
A bug hotel, pretty much we don't need it up on land. It's more needed in areas where it's all clean and sterilized and we don't have any hiding places for these bugs. The majority of bugs that we have, they are beneficial to our garden. And so we want them. We want to invite them in so they do the pest control. We want them to do the job. So we give them a house. We give them accommodation in our garden to host them and do the job. So ladybugs, bees, and all sorts of bugs can come in. So we have played around these concepts and made some structures. So it's small things that reflect the mentality of eco-farming and permaculture.
So where can people find out more? I know you want them to visit Facebook pages and websites to get the details.
Yes.
And let's remind them it's happening this coming Sunday.
Yes, this coming Sunday, 17th of February. Registrations, we prefer people to just let us know in advance through an email or a Facebook message, and we have all the data on our Facebook page, Pedrera Permaculture Land, and also on the website pedrera.land under events. And you can find all the information about how to register, even why run for seeds, why walk for seeds, and contact details for us. You can find it all online.
If you'd like to find out more, do look for the Facebook event Run for Seeds or check out the Pedrera Permaculture website. And we've been talking to Sofia Matsis, one of the organisers. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.